Welcome Monday, January 11th, 2016 to Fundamentals of Computing. Reviewing a little bit what we've been talking about so far. First thing I do whenever I come to this class, just check assignment schedule. And I am trying to keep that up to date. If you do see a change, or if there is a change, this is where you should see it. And if there's ever any doubt about an assignment, always check here. So what we have today is the Bible search project we worked on last time. Remember, we looked for your last name or forms of your name in the search, and then we talked about the screenshot, etc., and upload that. Any questions about that project? Everyone able to upload that? And remember, that is just listed down here inside of the basics right there. And when you see the little hand under the icon, that means there's probably something to turn in. Now, there's a little feature called completion tracking, and some of them you'll be missing that little box next to it. Don't worry about that. And if you see on my screen things that are in gray, that means that's hidden from you, but I as the instructor can see it. So sometimes I'll be showing things when they're in gray. Don't worry about that. Some things may not have a completion box next to them. I'm trying to remember to get them all in. See, I missed it for the WD practice. Maybe I'll put that in there because that's not an assignment. See how it has a different little icon? I think it was just for viewing something. But I've been trying to do that just to kind of give you general feedback of where you've been when you come back to the course. So we've talked about a lot of things, and I have, as we've gone through this course multiple times, as I come across some handy things, I've added links to each little section. And this morning, as I was doing a little research, I added some links regarding regarding cloud storage. So this little link right here, click on that, and it'll bring up a little window. PC Magazine is a very popular, pretty well-known magazine for us nerds. And this one explains some cloud storage services for 2015. Whenever you go to the internet, especially related to technology, the date of the article is very critical. You read something that's talking about some critical thing or a critical virus, and you get all uptight, and then you look, oh, that was September 2005. Why did I get all worried about that? They fixed that by now. So, especially with technology. When you're dealing with the Bible, you don't always have to have the latest articles. The Bible hasn't changed a whole lot. Viewpoints have slowly changed in some ways. But with technology, things that are more than 5 years old, you can almost just throw away because technology has advanced way beyond. The cool thing about this particular site, although it explains some for pay cloud storage, it also explains a few free ones. And the number that's most important, interesting to me, here, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here for make it more readable, is this number right here, the free storage available with that particular software. I'll push that down to the bottom. 5 gigabyte free, 0, none, 5, 15 gigabytes for free in Google Drive. And a couple more free ones. There's the Microsoft OneDrive, 15 gig free there as well. Look at the total, what's that number there? The 5 terabytes, that's the file size limit. I don't know if I've ever seen a file larger than, some of our operating systems are like 5 gigabytes. I don't know how long it would take to upload a 5 terabyte top file, but they allow that file size. Yes, sir.
Well, how would you upload a 5 terabyte file size when you can only get up to 15 gigabytes in storage?
Well, that's the free.
Oh.
So once you do pay more for it, yeah, that's a good question. Hey, start uploading it, and come back in a day. Oh, sorry, your file is full. I can't upload anymore. And that is the problem when you're uploading huge files to places. It's not and you still have maybe have room for it on the site where you're sending it to. What can happen is sometimes there's a little glitch in the internet halfway through your upload, and if it's a small file, you usually get it there before the glitch happens. As you get larger and larger files, you need, if you're going to do an upload for large files, you have to find some way that is restartable or can handle little glitches in the internet. If it goes down for a minute right in the middle, there is some software that will actually restart it in the middle of it rather than start all over. But this is pretty impressive, the amount of free storage you can have. How many of you are using any of these free storage, cloud storage services? Dropbox has been very popular. Google Drive, I've been using it quite a bit. Apple promotes this. If you use your Apple, they have the little cloud there all the time. It's like it automatically connects and it gives it to you. One problem with these, here's one advantage. We'll talk about the advantage first. Say I take a picture on my phone, on my smartphone. If I have the application, the iCloud application, I go back to my Mac or my iPad that's running it as well. The picture is automatically appearing there too. It's pretty handy. The cloud service handles what they call synchronizing the pictures on one device or the files on one device to the other. So it's very common to have photos. The problem with that is I have lots of room on my laptop and my big hard drive, but my phone or my iPad doesn't have as much storage, and I just uploaded a bunch of pictures from my camera, and now my phone is full of photos because it synchronizes what I put on my laptop automatically goes over if I put it in the same folder as that cloud. So be careful with that. You'll find what I find I myself doing is I only put things in the cloud that I want to be sure is synchronized, and when I have things I have to keep in mind, this will fill up my smartphone. I don't want to put it in my drive, even though it kind of would be nice to get at all my files from the same place. Google Drive allows you to do that. If I save my files, or any of these cloud services, if I save my files in a cloud service, I can get at it from my iPad, from my smartphone, even though it's not stored on my smartphone. But what has to be working in order for me to get to it? The network, the internet. I have to use that. And my poor smartphone, I can last about an hour on the internet before the battery is gone. Because my particular one takes, maybe it has an older battery that doesn't last very long, or the software uses up a lot of energy in my particular phone. It doesn't last long when I'm getting files from the internet. But it's pretty convenient. I would be at my little ministry Friday nighters, and when I look up our schedule, what was the planned schedule? I could pop that file right up, and I don't have to say, I forgot to download it to my phone yesterday. I may have a new version somewhere else. That's the big headache when you have multiple devices. So cloud storage, we'll hit on that. That's a pretty common thing nowadays, and it's happening right now. With sometimes you're not even knowing it if you have an account on some of these cloud places, like your Google Drive. Everyone that comes to Emmaus, you're given an account in what they call, it's like Gmail, but it's built for school. It's called Google Apps. You have cloud storage there. Okay, so that's a little bit about that. There's another link if you just do a search for free cloud storage, best free cloud storage. There's another one I found in China that gives you, I think it's at 10 terabytes of free storage. I'm not sure I would trust my sensitive files to the Chinese, but apparently it's a huge company it's to their advantage to not mess with your file and not lose customers. But 10 terabytes, I don't know what I would do with 10 terabytes of free storage. What I might do is maybe store all my, treat it as a backup of my entire computer, in case I need to, or just in case something goes wrong, I can go back to that account. So other links here, I'm not holding you responsible to have quizzes or things about this. This is more helpful advice if you're want to catch up on any particular topics. Warning about scams on the internet. This was one, I forget when I put this up. This was showing up as a pop-up when people logged in. I can enlarge that. To their own computer, and they would click on this fix now. Because look, I found 6,000 errors on my computer. Don't click on those links. Sometimes they're just a harmless, they're advertising and they want you to pay. Sometimes they are very malicious, and just by you clicking, it will do some really nasty things, and sometimes even lock up your computer. Things that are becoming more and more popular these days, it's called ransomware. It will not erase your files, it will encrypt them, scramble them, and the only way you can get your files back is to pay them a fee so you can get your files back. So don't fall for those scams. And remember what your remedy is if you do fall for a scam or something gets in. What can you do? What should you have available? That's good. That might keep it from happening. But it's going to happen one day.
A backup?
A backup. Don't forget the backups. When you're working for a company, be the one person that asks the question, do we have a backup of that important information? Don't be shy about checking that you have backups. People need reminders. And don't assume it's a good backup. Make sure you test it. Check that what you have on your jump drive you can actually use or read or copy to another jump drive. Sometimes people will sit back thinking that the backup is working because they see some program called backup running, but then when it actually happens, oh, we haven't been backing up those files. I thought we were. Even if you're not the internet or not the IT geek, ask that question. How's our backups going? How often do we do them? And what is being backed up? Take it upon yourself to ask the question to make sure it happens. Even if you're not the expert on exactly how it happens, make sure you ask that IT person. All right. So we've got through that particular topic, and remember in our little schedule, e-quiz, intro to computers. Well, the next thing coming up has to do with cloud computing, but we have some time here to talk a little bit more about the basics of computers. And let's bring me up a page here from the book. Here it is. In the book, it reviews different aspects of purchasing a computer. And I'm kind of skimming through this chapter, and I've highlighted a few things in my copy because I have an electronic version. And let's go back here. They talk about the variety of things that you can that are related to computers. It talks about advice regarding how to purchase a computer. One thing that came to mind as I was looking through this, as they kind of give you just a summary of computers and the different kinds available. Most people, as we've seen people register here at Emmaus, have been buying laptops, coming in with laptops. Be sure, I can't read that very well here, and it doesn't let me zoom in. I'm zoomed in as far as I can go, let's see here. Yeah, I don't think I can, it's not letting me zoom any further. The previous reader let me zoom really big. Well, what it says here is, make sure you have a nice padded case for your portable device. That little handle on the laptop bag is going to break off one day, or it's going to slip off your shoulder. Is there enough padding at the bottom to help it survive a fall? Many people will use just very simple little sewn bags to carry their laptops, and I see those and I feel so bad for that person, because one day it's going to get banged pretty hard and be damaged. Another thing that they didn't mention in the book here is when you're connecting it up, if you do connect it up to the network or to the power cable to the wall, make sure that it's not stretched across where someone can trip over it. Multiple times people have come here and their laptop was safely on their desk, but someone tripped on the network cable and it pulled it right off the desk or the power cable. The Macs have been done pretty well with power cables. They're magnetically attached, and so if you trip on it, it doesn't pull your poor laptop off the table. PC laptops, they generally pull out okay, but sometimes they will pull them off the table. So be careful about that. Also, if you're planning on using it for any ministry like projecting, some computers have an output for connecting to a projector. If you're planning on doing presentations, sometimes you have to buy a special device that lets you do video from that. And so for every one of my devices, I have my device to an RGB, a VGA cable they call it, to allow me to connect to a projector. Pretty handy. Many desktops. Oh, and by the way, desktops have the same capabilities and more than a laptop, but are going to cost about half the price. So if you don't need a portable computer, you'll get the best power from a desktop. And that's one reason we have desktops here, although they're getting pretty small these days. They still, even a bigger desktop, I can get more capability in. I like the big chunky boxes and the desktops because I like to be able to add other hard drives or help other people repair their hard drives so I can connect them in. And these guys only have room for one hard drive inside of it. But desktops, the big clunky ones, if you got room in your office, they will, and you don't need portability, they'll give you the best capabilities at a lower price than a laptop. They'll be a little noisier. You can't carry them around so much. And regarding that one thing, let me grab a hard drive. I want to be sure you're familiar exactly with how they work.
Put all my movies on it. Should be all my stuff.
Here, I just pulled out some hard drives from a system we have back there. I have some in my office. I've actually opened the cover on my hard drives. Do you all know how hard drives work? What's inside it?
What's inside of them?
Yeah.
Isn't there like something like a little disc that spins that allow you to store the magnets?
Yeah, it's inside of these. There's an aluminum disc that's spinning, and on that aluminum disc is a coating of magnetic metallic material. They call it ferrous oxide is what's the technical name, but it's basically magnetic paint. But it looks like a mirror. It's such a fine grain of particles painted on the surface of aluminum. And these tiny particles basically are microscopic magnets. And when you store information, what you're doing is turning those little particles, magnetizing them in a certain direction. You know, you have north and south on magnets. When you write data to a file, you're turning a little magnet either in north or south, and the north or south orientation of that little tiny microscopic magnet determines a 1 or 0 in the data, and then it's stored as binary data. How is that different from DVDs or CDs storage? Anybody have an idea? They're not magnetic.
Don't they just scan a laser along the CD and
Yeah.
just read?
They actually burn a little tiny spot into the surface of a CD or DVD, and it's red. The spot is seen by a little laser. Whether it's there or not determines a 1 or a 0. That's why they call it optical storage. This is called magnetic storage. Your DVDs and CDs are optical storage. And so that's why they need to be cleaned. Sometimes you'll get scratches on them. That's why you'll get the glitches sometimes reading a DVD, because optically the spots you can't see because it's got a scratch over it or a smudge. These can get ruined by magnetic fields. So if you're one of those people that likes to play with magnets, keep them away from your hard drives. Or if your little brother or somebody comes with a magnet, don't let them near your your hard drive. This is an external hard drive. That's basically a drive about that same size, but encased in a just barely enough plastic around it to sort of protect it from dropping. And it's got a little rubber ring around it just to give it a little cushion if it got dropped. I don't know what the capacity of this, but it's a little external hard drive. Pretty handy. Doesn't say the actual capacity. But keep magnets away from these because this is magnetic storage. Nice thing about these, when I turned it off, the magnets stay in the orientation they have. In your computers, there's also storage of a different type called memory. And that's, think of it as much faster way of storing information. Your computer can get to it and change it around and store it very quickly, about maybe 100 or 1,000 times faster than a hard drive. So memory, though, is very expensive compared to a hard drive or permanent storage. But when your computer is on and doing programs like Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, the memory is where it's keeping the data so it can run fast. So if you want your computer to be able to run fast and behave for you quickly, when you're buying a computer, get as much memory as you can. That will keep your computer running fast. As the operating system has updates, it's always wanting to use more memory. So when you want a computer to be able to last long for you, get one that has as much memory as possible. If you're finding it's running slower, before dumping it and spending the money to buy a new one, check to see is it possible to get more memory for your computer. Often you can extend the life and make it actually much speedier for you just by upgrading your memory. And it'll probably cost around $100. So rather than buying a new one for $700 to $1,000 or more, check that you can check that the upgrade of memory is possible. Josh Shorley did that recently. He had a MacBook that had 4 gigabytes of memory. He doubled his memory to the full capacity of his, and I'm sure he's made that more useful for probably another 3 years for him. Mine, I have 8 gig on mine. I don't know if it has possibility of getting more, but I'm still pretty happy with it. I haven't noticed suddenly we're going super slow. It can save you some money. Memory, though, does not last, or what's stored in memory goes away when you turn your computer off. That's why it's temporary storage, but it's very fast. And I don't know if they mentioned that term, random access memory, or RAM. That's the type of memory. And of course, there's other ways to store data. They mentioned some of that in there as well. Oh, and they did mention this type of computer. This is one that our CIS majors have to learn a lot about. The server. What do you know about servers?
They get really hot.
They can get very hot, and when I have my servers running in the room back here, you hear the fans running. These servers have powerful fans in them to keep them cool. Servers are often PCs that are hidden in some back room with air conditioning, and you go in there and it's like a bunch of chainsaws. It's fans running everywhere, and these servers are made to just about run for years without ever being turned off, because they're out there providing websites. If you go to some places, you'll see that these are called racks, and each one of these little sections in the shelf is a server. So this is a rack of maybe 20 servers in one big rack, and you can imagine the heat that generates. And there's fans running through this box, air conditioning, cooling that off. There are warehouses full of racks like this called server farms that host sites like Google, like your bank. That's why servers are very important to learn about if you want to get into the IT business. Knowing how to connect to and configure and install and support a server, you can have a career doing that. And you can even develop cool software to make servers run better. There's a big deal called green computing, making these servers in these huge server farms smaller and more efficient and cooler, because a lot of the power to run servers is simply the energy to keep them cool. So you run them, generate heat, you use up more energy to keep them cool so they don't crash. But this is basically how the internet runs. Racks of servers all over the world serving you websites. The server right now that's displaying or giving you the website for eLearn is downstairs on the first floor in this building. In sort of a rack like this. The room's a little bit warm and it's not terribly secure. A lot of people can go in there and trip over the power cord going into our server and shut it down. Our distance education server is down there as well. So when you deal with servers, especially with banks, and you've seen this in movies too, the server room is super secure and backing up all the times. But if you're interested in computers and dealing with a company, you want to be familiar at least with where your server is, who's maintaining it, and is it being backed up. You're kind of the experts on mobile devices. This is pretty old school. About time to update our book when we start seeing the old phones. Any of you have a phone like this? I suppose one like that, but I think I know one person that still has a phone like this. Interesting thing I came across as I was reading about smartphones, mentioning that text messaging may make you worse at writing formally. You ever thought about that? I know my daughter kind of text messages, and I've got we've been homeschooling her last couple of years. She's gotten better at writing her formal writing assignments, less looking like a jumbled text message. It is a challenge though in writing. Switch gears from your text messaging to formal writing style, and I'll bet you've gotten pretty good at it. And it's something that maybe us old schoolers, older generation, may have a harder time. We're not used to multitasking so much as you are. Some of you think that you can multitask when you're really not. Don't let that fool you. Education has shown that you really can't multitask. Although you're probably better at it than I am, you're not as efficient as when you focus on one subject at a time and turn off that phone. Let's see, there are a few other things here. As I skimmed through it, I highlighted a few things. Talked about data and information. That is basically the internet is the internet is based on data and information. You're living in the information age. You've just grown up with that. Being able to access that information quickly using programs that you're learning in this course and other things you can learn will make you a very useful employee for whatever company you work for. Knowing how to access and process, store information. And when we get to databases, that's the part I emphasize, is that's the most powerful way of processing, getting at data. All right, going through a few things here, making sure I don't miss anything. Dealing with printers, output devices. Remember, there is the e-quiz. How many have done that e-quiz for this chapter? Good. Remember, you can take it multiple times. Don't forget that. I'll try to remind you, and after a while, I'm going to stop reminding you because there's the mention of memory, and there's the mention of the hard disk. So it does mention a little bit about how disks are created. If you want to research that, do a little YouTube search. Here's your external drive. Remember, that's the most important thing in your computer. The data is stored permanently on that hard drive. So if you sell your laptop, you may want to keep the hard drive just in case you have data there that you don't want to lose. If your laptop crashes, you can't get it anymore, before you throw it away, because maybe it really is trashed, save the hard drive. Often the hard drive is still good, and you can put that drive into a little case. What I do is I actually buy hard drives, and sometimes you can get them just as cheap as an external hard drive. The advantage is I take the hard drive out of here, put it on my computer, and take my old hard drive and put it in that case, and it serves as kind of an archive of what I used to have on my computer. Just in case anything goes wrong on this, I automatically can get back to my old hard drive and all of my files. Banks or anything secure on computers, you know, there are ways, even though people have deleted their files on the system, like Hillary Clinton deleted files. She thought she deleted files on her server. They're actually not completely erased, and if someone can get a hold of the hard drive, they can actually recover the files that were supposedly trashed and emptied from the trash. So people that are super careful about information, they will physically destroy hard drives instead of just taking them out and handing them over to someone to use, because until they're destroyed, I can save my other files on it. But if you have sensitive information, they physically put this through a shredder and actually shred the hard drives. It makes me cry because I could sure use hard drives here, and we often will get lower cost hard drives. But they have to shred them if they want to be super careful about the information. Think of this on the mission field. If there's organizations that are keeping information about contacts they had, and suddenly that country has become very hostile toward Christians, missionaries have to be super careful of not letting their information get out, like the people they've been contacting. Their lives may be at stake. And so people that are helping missions, first of all, they train missionaries to encrypt their files. That means keep them scrambled so they're password protected. But also use external drives or use cloud storage. That's another advantage of cloud storage. If someone captures me or steals my laptop, and I know that, and first thing I'll do is change my password to my online storage, they can't get to the things I've stored. And another thing regarding that, don't save your passwords in files in your computer. At the most, save little hints of what the password is. What I will often do is save the first letter, and I know, okay, I've used that password with that first letter. But I won't ever save anywhere in any file the full password, just in case someone gets a hold of it, and I don't want to suspect them of getting into my bank. And of course, remember, use complex passwords. All right, going over general computer things, and we'll finish up this chapter. There's the mention of the backups, and some mention of the World Wide Web. I think we can assume you know a lot about that. Safety on the web, you've probably been hearing that all your life. Only go to sites that you are specifically needing to research. Don't install plugins. There are multiple ways of getting into messing your computer. There is actually recent vulnerability in Chrome, the Chrome browser on smartphones, that all you had to do was visit a website. You didn't have to click on anything. All you had to do was go to that website, and the virus would get installed on a smartphone and mess up Chrome. And they would do something called bricking the phone. That'd be basically making useless as a brick, just by visiting a website. So don't click unless you have a good reason to go to sites. People are trying to phish, trying to socially engineer you to go to their sites constantly. Be careful about that. And I hope you've heard the advice about don't click links inside of emails, especially if it claims to be from your bank. If you at all think it is really your bank, don't click on the email link. Go to your bank on a separate browser window. Don't click on that link, because often it's a fake link to something that looks exactly like your bank. People have gotten very good at spoofing, cloning the bank's website, and you clicking on that would think, oh, this is totally the bank's website, and when in reality it actually is a fake website. So never ever click on a link, especially to anything that is secure. The big concern these days regarding privacy is people have gotten pretty good at protecting their bank accounts. Facebook has had enough problems with people hacking that people are generally careful about that. Where people are not careful or not sure what to do is medical information. The big scare these days is people hacking the hospital databases and getting at your information and faking that you have a certain condition so you can't get insurance, or stealing that information so they can try to sell your name to those people that have a particular real condition and get people to market to you. And hospitals generally aren't super up to date on all their technology. They have machines that have been working, that CAT scan system that costs $2 billion. They're not going to do an upgrade because it's been working for 10 years and they're still paying for it on multiple mortgages or something. The software on that may have a vulnerability, or in systems like that, and people can go right in and get your x-rays and then maybe hold it hostage or scramble it until you pay a ransom. That's the fear now of people, and it's almost like a warfare, electronic warfare, dealing with scrambling and getting at information in other places. Have you heard of an actual electronic virus that was involved in the Iran nuclear program? There was a big news among the techies, a virus called Stuxnet, and it's actually come up in some techie movies or series. It was a virus that was believed to have been originated by the U.S., collaboration with U.S. and Israelis, putting in viruses into the computers that would go into the nuclear facilities as they were doing nuclear research in Iran. And over in Iran, these nuclear researchers were working on developing plutonium, enriching plutonium, and the machines kept breaking down. And they realized there was some virus going around that would cause the machine to work incorrectly and actually wear out much sooner and not produce the plutonium. They started to suspect the researchers in the nuclear facility, and researchers were being taken out and executed on suspicion of bringing in this virus. Finally, they traced it to viruses that were coming in on equipment in the little computers that would run the motors for these centrifuges that they used to enrich uranium. And they named it the Stuxnet virus. But before they figured out where it was coming from, many researchers disappeared from those facilities. And the estimate is they slowed down Iran's nuclear program by about 10 years. And that's why in the politics of this whole recent deal with making a deal with Iran and giving them reducing sanctions on them, the big fear is, they're going to break the rules and lie to us about it, and they're getting back into the program that we were trying to keep them from developing. And one day we're going to see the big mushroom cloud somewhere in the Mideast that may bring on some major wartime and major casualties. And maybe even this country might suffer from something, because, or you could say that virus that was introduced may have slowed that down, knowing the instability going on right now. Privacy is a big issue. It's hard to avoid having your information out there, because you need the online bank. That may be the only way you offer. You get deals, but just be careful on what you're sharing, and just keep in mind, change those passwords to those online places. There are companies that will keep track for you if someone is actually trying to access your private accounts, whether your name or account number has been compromised, and will give you the warning and maybe automatically lock those accounts for you. My bank account automatically locks my credit card if it notices any activity not out of normal. So when I'm summer traveling to camps, I've had occasionally my credit card was not accepted until I called my bank and said, yes, I am in New York, it's me. Applications now that run on your computer. Let's get you to think about what applications do you use on your computer. Esther, what application do you use often on your computers? I'll bet you it's your browser.
Yes. Yeah.
And what main sites?
Old people, I guess.
And eLearn, right? Doing all your
E-learning,
coursework.
and my NICC one.
Oh, you got the Express
Yes.
system. They're upgrading that.
Yeah.
What class are you taking in SEC?
I'm in the nursing program.
Oh, all right, right. All right. Mr. Flores, what application do you use?
Probably browser as well.
Any games?
Not
Not-
really. Just like watching sports and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paul?
I use just a lot of mainline, just gaming software, so a lot of it's like Steam and .NET Launcher.
Yeah.
So, which make it central hub for all. So.
Yeah. Hannah?
I use like Safari and yeah, I mean I use it for Gmail or just stuff like that. I
So
don't
the
like
browser
really
and then
yeah.
different sites from the browser.
Yeah.
Caitlin? No. Forgot your name.
Just
Katie.
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 Usually just a browser.
Browser? Jared?
Besides all the ones that have been mentioned, Pandora and Spotify.
Okay. How about any of the applications we're covering in this course? I'm guessing you all have used Microsoft Word,
Use PowerPoint.
PowerPoint. How about Excel?
Yeah.
No kidding.
I
Okay.
use it. I mean, I don't really use it to its full capacity all the time, but I've used it for little projects.
Okay. Good. Something I'd encourage you, even before we get into the Excel section, maybe explore a little bit. On these computers, you're welcome to explore any of the apps that are on there, even before we're using them in class. And I know you can't spend tons of time because you got a lot of coursework to do, but feel free to explore those. One thing about the game programs, although they can be a huge waste of time, they can, help you develop your interest in sometimes, your reaction time skills, gives you a little relaxation. But think to yourself, hey, maybe I could build a program like this that would do something more than what this one is doing. My dream has always been to invent some program that was fun to play, but you automatically learned lots of stuff while you're playing it. That's why I like the games that have like a puzzle to them. So I'm not just shooting things forever. That I get bored after about half an hour of the shoot 'em up games. But some of them you're actually figuring, they're strategic. It's not just good aim and quick reaction. I would love a game that, wouldn't it be cool? Remember, have you ever heard of the subliminal messages? Wouldn't it be cool if you're playing a game and it's actually giving you subliminal messages while you're playing, and after you're done playing, suddenly you know the whole first chapter of John. It just suddenly came in your mind because subliminally it was planting that in your brain as you're playing this particular game. I don't think that's possible, but that would be so cool if someone invented a game like that, that it's automatically feeding knowledge into your brain that, hey, I didn't know the anatomy of the human body until I played that game. I didn't even know I was learning that. But
Well, what if people actually took that and used to send negative support?
there you go. That's the danger of it.
Then
Yeah.
it's like George Orwell's biggest nightmare.
Yeah, programming people. Suddenly you've got a little army because they went to a particular page on Google and the virus implanted in their brain and you made them their own little robot army. Maybe that can happen one day. Hopefully not. Hopefully the brain's designed to not allow that. Keep in mind though, some of those things you are being programmed in a way by the media, by the movies you watch. You're being programmed to be less sensitive to certain types of violence, less sensitive to certain moral behavior because of what you watch. That's beyond this class though. That's a whole course in philosophy of just the society we're living in does program our minds into accepting things. So without having the constant biblical input, we can easily get blinded to the world's philosophy. And we'll end with that today. Oh, one thing to do, when you're here, when you're logged into the eLearn, when the class is over, go ahead and do a log out. You can click on your little name at the top and log out, or I think there's a little log out button somewhere. Yeah, click on here and you can log out of eLearn. So when someone comes back and sits at this computer, they can't accidentally delete your files that are up on eLearn. All right, have a great day. We'll be getting into more of that Dropbox lab next time. Or that cloud lab, I think I called it.